Airport security, always a very serious matter these days, even more so after the failed bombing attempt on the U.S.-bound flight on Christmas Day. So, all right, you're not going to believe this. Imagine a young woman's horror when a TSA worker thought it would be kind of funny to plant a baggie filled with white powder in her bag.
Hysterical.
Yeah. Well, the 22-year-old college student says she was left absolutely in a panic when the worker pulled the bag out of her carry-on, demanded an explanation. She was on the verge of tears when he finally said, hey, just a joke, just kidding.
Yeah, and by the way, this worker was actually training somebody. So this was in part of the training exercise. I guess that's a great example to set for future TSA workers. Well, now the TSA says that the worker in question has been disciplined and no longer works there. They won't say whether he was fired or if he quit. But should the punishment include criminal charges? Let's bring in our legal panel. Joey Jackson is a former prosecutor and defense attorney, and Kisha Hebbon is also a former prosecutor and defense attorney. You know, Kisha, in light of what our country has gone through, let's not forget Christmas Day. Right. The fact that somebody working for the TSA pulled this joke, okay, and he calls it just a joke, is despicable. The question is, in the eyes of the law, does this woman have a case? And I should also mention her father also happens to be a prosecutor, so this case is not going away.
Right. I absolutely think she has a case. First, I mean, this is not just a joke. Like you said, in light of what our country's going through, in light of all the things that happened just 10 days prior with the Christmas attack in the airport, she can definitely sue TSA, I believe, for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Because, I mean, imagine what went through her mind. And yes, it was only 20 seconds, but to this woman, she said it felt like an eternity.
She was near tears.
Right. She'd have to sue him under the Federal Tort Claims Act. I think she can win, though, because this was non-discretionary action by the guy. But I want to ask you about criminal charges. Forget about the civil lawsuit for money damages. Shouldn't this guy be criminally charged?
Absolutely not. Now, there are two issues, Greg. The first is whether or not the conduct was abhorrent, whether or not it was in bad taste, whether or not it was totally inappropriate, uncalled for, and should have happened. It should not have. And so, just to be clear, clearly the conduct was outrageous. The question, Julie and Greg, is whether or not it should rise to the crime. I say it should not. The reality is that the criminal law and the criminal justice system are not for pranksters and jokesters. They're for criminals. And at the end of the day, while what this person did was abhorrent, it should not happen again, there's a way to deal with him outside of the criminal justice system.
Shouldn't TSA workers be held to higher standards? And if it was a passenger, a civilian, entering an airport, and we say, oh, I don't know, let's throw one out there, nothing harmless, I've got a bomb in my bag. Oh, I was just joking.
Yeah,
we'd be criminally charged.
But it's different.
So then shouldn't the same standards be applied to the TSA if not even?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why not.
I believe the standard should be even higher because this TSA worker is trained. He knows what's going on in our airports. He knows how our security is very important to us right now. So I think that the standard should be higher and he should face the same federal charges that a passenger would face for saying something like, I have a bomb.
Here's why it's different. Here's why it's different. When you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with an uncontrolled environment. In other words, now criminal justice standards apply because you want to punish them and you want to deter them. You could have those same effects of punishment and deterrent by taking swift, strong, and immediate administrative action, like the TSA did in dismissing him without question. I see. So we should ban him from existence.
They're just going to politely escort me out of the airport?
Absolutely not.
And what's the difference, Joey?
The difference is that the TSA took swift and immediate action in getting rid of him, punishing him, and deterring other people from doing that. It's far different than, for example,
we don't even know.
The criminal justice system, it's for criminals. I mean,
we don't even know if he was fired or if he left, if he voluntarily left the job. It doesn't say if he was fired, and that's not punishment.
Now, having said that, going back to and shifting to the whole issue of civilly, do I believe it would be a negligent infliction of emotional distress lawsuit?
Or intentional infliction?
You know, well, intentional they may have some difficulty, Greg, only because intent under the Federal Tort Claims Act oftentimes is not allowed. But in any event, Julie, I believe that there's a cause of action. But in terms of a criminal case, I don't see it.
Wait a second. He's in the midst of training another TSA worker. Wouldn't it be easy to prove intent as well?
You want to use the criminal justice system as deterrent, so you want to send a very loud and clear message to other TSA workers. You don't do this, you're going to be criminally prosecuted.
But you can do that administratively by saying you will lose your career, you will lose your job, you will have the inability to work someplace else.
Small price. We're going to pull your
jails, Julia, for terrorists. They're for bad people. They're not for TSA workers who have bad judgment.
There definitely should be a higher standard.
Yeah.
And like you said, what about other TSA employees? It's not setting a good example.
It's a double standard.
See what this is, Joey? This is a little slap in
Keep
the
the
wrist.
pranksters out of jail.
Okay.
Keep the stone-hard criminals in jail. That's what jail's for.
Lock him up, toss the key away. All right.